Hi, good evening.
Hi, Teresa. Finally,
Finally, yes.
yes, we have
Okay, just checking the
got
sound.
the initial glitch
Yeah. I'm just checking the audio. Can you hear me?
very clearly, my friend.
Okay. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thumbprint Conversation. And Vasanti has been an old friend of the Thumbprint, and she was one who helped us organize the first ever Thumbprint Conversation in Bangalore. So it's nice to have you live with us. And today we are going to talk about lessons from the lockdown and how Vasanti Hariprakash has survived the lockdown. So,
We both
you
are alive to tell the tale, Teresa.
yes. So, I'm just checking with the audience. Are we audible? If we have any problem with the sound, do let us know. So, the lockdown has been a lesson for many. It has been good, bad, ugly, sweet, sour, bitter for many. But I think our guest tonight, Vasanti Hariprakash, has been keeping really busy during the lockdown post March. She's been taking Urdu diction classes, taking to dance in a class meant for people who are 40 plus, brushing up her Gujarati. Why Gujarati? And via WhatsApp. And she's even signed up to learn Carnatic music via Skype from a cousin based in the US. That's something. Okay. So now let me introduce Vasanti Hariprakash, the vivacious Vasanti from Bangalore. She said good morning to Bangalore every morning live for 4 hours for 4 years as an award winning RJ on Radio City FM, reported breaking news on NDTV 24/7, anchored documentaries in a series on BBC World News. She also founded Pickle Jar, that curated 3 seasons of film festivals and reported on the Lok Sabha elections via a 3,000-kilometer road trip she undertook via 3 South Indian states in a self-driven car for 18 days. Today, Vasanti Hariprakash is an audio-video journalist who loves to use her voice to tell stories of a changing, vibrant India. Vasanti, I think I can hear some noise in your back. You put on your earplugs. Do you have your earplugs? If you have your earplugs, that's easier.
I see.
Yeah.
Really? Because you very clearly, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. Okay.
Unfortunately, this new brand of phone that I have bought doesn't have a jack for a earphone,
Okay.
Teresa. It's one of
Okay. Okay.
those.
Fine. Okay.
Yes.
Fine.
Having said that, yes. So now I have the phone. The fan is turned off. Let's just see if things are any better.
Yeah. It's better now. Yeah. So, Vasanti, welcome to the Thumbprint Conversation and welcome to Northeast India. Uh, you have been a friend of the Northeast. I remember you had a, I don't know, a brief stint in modeling for Northeastern fabric and jewelry. So, can you tell us something about your association with the region and your yeah, of course, your love for the fabric and the handloom of the region? Let's start with that.
Um, yeah, so I think love for the region precedes a love for the handloom of the region. Simply because I have, though I have been a sari fan, I was not so aware of the weaves as much as, let's say, I'm now. Even now, I'm really in the process of learning. But as far as the Northeast itself is concerned, Teresa, for someone who's a confirmed nomad like I am, and I have been like a, like this wanderer of a woman, somehow the Northeast had eluded my travels. Despite having been born to a father who had this highly transferable job. So sometimes even within 6 to 7 months, we'll be moving states from Punjab to Tamil Nadu to Bihar, Hyderabad. Those days Andhra Pradesh. But somehow that chunk of India was more in terms of learning capitals of states. That's all that I knew about. All that changed though in 2009 when the Women Media Network that you and I are a part of, there's this incredible solidarity of sisterhood that I call, had its meeting in Manipur. Anjulika Thingnom. So she and her team had organized for all of us media women to be able to travel to Manipur. And I remember having been so thrilled. Back in the day, I used to report for national news television, I mean NDTV to be precise. And this was my first chance, a sort of a doorway, a gateway into this beautiful region, which I have never gotten to explore as much as I would like to. And it so happened that that was the time, as serendipity would have it, that Irom Sharmila was released, and this was 2009, and of course rearrested. I'm sure viewers who are watching the thumbprint conversation are aware how it is. How it played out at that time, her protest against the AFSPA. So, on one hand, we were getting to listen to voices of the Northeast in that 3 day conversation at the NWMI's national meet. But it was also a point of breaking news. Though I was on leave at that time, I remember reporting on this because it was unfolding before our eyes. We got to meet Irom Sharmila herself. In a way, the entry to the Northeast for me was nothing less than dramatic. It wasn't just as a tourist or as a delegate for a conference, but really as a participant in what was happening. And after that, it has really been an aspiration to travel back because somehow work has, I moved on from television. I went on to be a program anchor, a moderator, and that has been my, let's say, my work for the past 4, 5, 6 years. And yet somehow it has been mainly either to cities like Mumbai or Delhi or to villages in Uttar Pradesh, because I'm also, I was involved very deeply with Gaon Connection, which is a rural media platform, India's largest, or to Chhattisgarh, where there's a tribal radio network. So, having been a radio person and a television person, it makes more sense for me to be involved with this. But nothing somehow has gotten me lucky to come back to the Northeast. But the modeling assignment that you mentioned was, just when I think when you have a connection, somehow these things happen. Somewhere around 2014, there was this person called Jonali Saikia Khasnabish, who is in Bangalore and who was working on a brand called Hia. And it was actually saris woven by women weavers of Assam in particular. So you had these mishing weaves and those jewelry, and some of it were beads, and I teamed it up with beads that I had brought from Manipur. So it was a modeling. Yes, I just realized that it's far easier to stand with a news mic and say, yes, I'm Vasanti Hari Prakash, rather than do this and hold a sari pallu like this and do that. So those are the two, let's say, interactions and connections with the Northeast this far.
Mm-hmm. And of course, our friendship that goes a long way,
Sorry, I missed that.
And of course, our friendship that goes
yes,
a lot many years. Yeah.
I know.
So, yeah. So I'm really intrigued by your stint in as a radio jockey. And when did you really realize that you were radiogenic? I heard you speaking somewhere that you realized that you were radiogenic. And
I know.
uh,
I got
tell us
told that,
about.
and I almost had to. Well, yes, I had to look up online to say, okay, radiogenic. अब तक तो सिर्फ photogenic सुना था. Now what's radiogenic? Um, yes, and I feel sometimes that when you don't plan, and this is my funda. I don't know people who are watching your show whether they subscribe to it, but certainly this is the way my life has panned out. That I couldn't, if I had planned it, I don't know if it would have turned out to be half as interesting or as full of surprises. Because I am basically a science graduate, electronics to be precise, who came into journalism luckily, who rather rediscovered that that I was meant to be a storyteller, especially after I did not crack the management exams twice over. I flunked those, and so that certainly drove home the point that I'm not cut out for this MBA variety of jobs. So it was, in a way, a very pleasant accident. After I had worked in the Indian Express, in the new Indian Express newsroom for almost 7 years in the mid 90s. And I had taken a break because by then, marriage, motherhood, I had this little boy, and I was feeling very left out that between my night shifts and stuff like that, I'm not able to do these Bollywood mom-like things. Even so-called simple stuff like reading out stories, and so I did take a detour. I took a break from the print media and found myself in a .com and later on in a radio station where they invited me over to speak on the role of the press and particularly what press freedom is. And it was just something so forgettable. Like I didn't say, or I remember it, I was more focused on what songs they're going to play on the show while they're interviewing me. But somebody who was listening to the show certainly found and told me that, hey, you know what? Have you thought of a career in radio? Because you are radiogenic, which basically apparently means that no matter how your voice is otherwise, the moment you speak into a mic, there's some magic that happens. Just like how photogenic, like how some people look good or better in photographs. That's how I entered the world of radio, and therefore literally not a trained radio anchor in that sense, but the plus point of not being too trained, is that then you're not predictable, and I think that was an advantage. Because I remember the radio station that I used to host that breakfast show from, which was a primetime one, 4 hours, as you mentioned, was that it was an English station. But because I thought it's a very Bangalore thing to do, to speak in a few languages, and I just happen to know 5, 6 languages. So I would say, Namaskara, good morning, this is da 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 da, and I'm Vasanti Hariprakash on the show, and somebody latched on to, oh, so she speaks Kannada. And it feels like she's our local person. And so this happened without any conscious brand imaging or planning. A lot of people, therefore, could relate to the person on radio because it was also, before that, a generation of RJs, at least were, including the time I was in, when RJs were literally nothing less than demigods in a sense. Radio was such a newborn. The first private FM station of India was set up in in Bangalore, Radio City 91 FM, and we're talking about 2001. So it's not even 2 decades old. I was just incredibly lucky that I got to do a stint even in All India Radio, which had its own private FM wing called FM Rainbow 101.3. And man, like sometimes I just want to wander back into the Akashvani archive section because it's so rich in history of music, of Hindustani music to Carnatic to Indian cinema to country music to soft rock to what have you? As in, these are some of the things that All India Radio has, and I really wish or hope that they have digitized, because for me it's been more than 1.5 decades since I moved on from that place. But you know, you used to have those old time LP records, so you actually had to play them on the show, and it's very surreal, and it also, in hindsight, feels like you were a part of, you were this minuscule part of FM history or radio history of modern India. By that I mean that this was still the time when people were writing letters, 2002, 2003. So I would actually get letters of listeners who would say, Vasanti, so we heard that, we heard Kenny Rogers, and can you please play ABBA or Bonnie M for us? Things, and people would get used to hearing you on your show, and who you would get used to hearing from, as a result of which you begin to form a very precious bond and relationship without them even seeing you. And thank God there was no social media in 2002, because it meant that, and I mean, I lasted to 2008 on radio. So the aura and the magic of this voice on air in the quiet of the night, that would, talk to you, that would play songs. And then when I moved to Radio City, that high energy, peppy show where that's again a voice that's waking up Bangalore every morning. Knowing how you look, you could walk into the radio station with your night clothes on, and it just wouldn't matter. Only what you said mattered. And you will recognize this as a journalist. And see, now you and I are speaking, and I'm sure people, all our friends, I can see some familiar names here. Our dear Rini Simon is watching. I can also see Dr. Bobby, Hasina Tajik. I mean, some of the names are scrolling up. And whether we like it or not, what we are wearing is a part of this conversation. But on radio, it's just what your voice emotes, and you have to convey happiness, sorrow, excitement, intrigue, curiosity. Your voice is your body language. And so you, even when you were sad, your listeners would know. I mean, even if there was one hint of you not well, someone will say, are you not, is everything okay? You see, and this kind of a magical or intimate relationship with your viewers that you form is possible only on the audio media. And that is why I'm amongst the print, radio, TV, and then I went on to do a documentary series for one particular series called One Square Mile on BBC World News, and then later on digital as we moved. Amongst everything that I was lucky to be a part of, anybody asked me to choose my most favorite one, I would still say audio.
Okay. So how about
radio and now podcast, therefore?
Yes, you said about podcast. How about saying good evening, Northeast India, in your signature style? Would you say that?
Okay, what is the time now? So if let's say I would
good. Yeah.
It's now 18 minutes past 8 o'clock on a Monday evening. Good evening, Teresa, and good evening, listeners of Thumbprint Conversation. And whether you like it or not, we both are going to take up the next few minutes of your lives as we speak.
Okay. So tell us, what's been the average lockdown day been like for you?
Packed is putting it mildly. Not that I'm doing something so world-saving. Yes, if let's say learning to wash dishes better, learning to scrub bathroom tiles till they shine, and feeling this smug satisfaction that Yes, I don't need any special ninja, and I'm up to the job. And becoming a sort of compulsive addict of recipes on YouTube, food sites, and again, afternoon nap, which is you try to resist, but you before you know it, the bed is calling you like this, and and also cooking itself, the whole the whole prospect of, and I think you'll have to get the light up again. I had a little uh, a dramatic moment when the thing which we had placed on, yeah.
Yeah. We could see your
Yes.
shadow. It was like, yeah.
Yes, it would have been like an art movie setting, nevertheless.
Yeah.
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 So, besides all these, there is a one plus or one huge bonus. I mean, all this I certainly count as skill sets that I did not think I had. I mean, cooking I've always loved, but I'm saying the other cleaning, meaning part though, I was my sister is this, she's this cleaning agent, as we always call her. She just goes into a place and can leave a place spotlessly clean. So all of us, I think, have gotten a lot more of self-confidence in being able to manage our lives on our own without much help. But the learnings, acquired learnings, which is to actually seek um, music or dance or Urdu diction. There is this couple called Salim Arif and Lubna Salim, very well-known theatre persons in Mumbai. Salim Saab, in fact, has been part of the theatre circle in Mumbai. He was associated with Bharat Ek Khoj and Mirza Ghalib and all those serials of the past. So I heard that they're taking this workshop where they're going to be teaching how to pronounce Urdu words. So you wouldn't land up saying Ghalib or Gayab, or things like Kak. There is a nuance, there is a lilt to Urdu, and thankfully I've had some of it. Like I would probably say Khwab instead of saying and the right stress and a Ghalib, but it was lovely to be part of a group that is trying to learn the beauty of a language like Urdu. This was a long cherished desire for me, particularly Sanskrit and Urdu. I still have my notes in my 11th standard diary, which probably I was watching some of these serials when we were in UP as a child. And now came the time when you are not aimlessly or running or traveling, if you're living out of a suitcase as much of life had been for the past couple of years, especially. But under this forced house arrest, you realize that, okay, maybe I can push myself to learn this bit. As far as Gujarati goes, my father was posted in Vadodara, that is Ahmedabad, then Jamnagar for some time. Though I was a student here in Bangalore, I'd keep traveling and I'd pick up little bits of Gujarati. But now came the time when I can brush it up a little more. I have a young friend called Aarti Shastri, who's a Kannadiga, and but who lives there. So all these online lessons to get better at Indian languages. Dance has been a very significant game changer in terms of fitness. In fact, the person from whom I learned, a gentleman called Jayachandran Palari, is an acclaimed international Bharatanatyam and Kathakali and many other forms of. They don't even call it dance. It's an institution that calls it movement, and that believes that as we grow older, this movement is what helps in better mind-body coordination, in keeping our brain alert. So and it's also now research that this kind of incorporated specialized movements, and this is for people, for women who are 40 plus, you see, it helps much older people also, early onset of dementia or Alzheimer's, so it's been proven that at any age group, it's good to be a part of any kind of dance and movement. So maybe this was a beginning, you could say. So one day of the week, kuch na kuch rehta hai. And of course, cycling has been new. I've got myself a cycle. So yeah, that's how it's been. And yeah, you know what I would love to share with people who are here listening to us is the coming back of deep reading, which I'm very grateful for. So if I could, I mean, I've mounted the camera on a tripod at this moment, so it's a little this thing to turn the camera. Otherwise, my bookshelf is right here, and all the stuff that I wanted to read always. I've been somehow been able to revive. So there is a book called, in fact, there's the Rajaji story written by Rajmohan Gandhi, which was a gift to me in my wedding. My grandfather gave this, and for years I couldn't really do justice to that book. So this year, apart from reading a book called Factfulness, which I feel is very important as a journalist, in this day, this age, so that we really, really stick to facts and not get swayed by rhetoric or emotion or just anecdotal evidence. There have also been very conscious attempt to read Gandhi and Ambedkar. So that's my wish for the coming year. So every morning when I wake up, and I usually get up around 6 o'clock, 5:45, 6 o'clock. So I've made it a point that the first 20 minutes has to be reading, with my cup of hot water. And at that hour, it's also very impactful to be able to read and like add to your own understanding and remove the biases that we all had. So in the past 1 year, for example, from Gandhi or any of the freedom fighters that we've been reading from various sources, chahe wo school mein ho or during our work. But now, even the biography of Savarkar, Veer Savarkar, that was written by Vikram Sapat. So, when the man who's been so controversial, I just told myself that I'm going to go into it with an absolutely open mind and then see what all these books have to offer to me. And then probably I'll be in a position to make my own judgments or just understanding. So all this, I think I have to thank that terrible virus for bringing in.
You've been extremely, extremely busy, and I understand you're also trying to start a podcast. So coming back to audio again. So tell us more about your venture, podcast. So how is it different from radio? And maybe you don't have to be live. So maybe that's different, or I don't know.
I always feel that it's in a way good to be live. I was telling you about both the kind of experience that I had at Radio City and Akashvani with FM Rainbow, and I feel that to the kind of person that I am, being live was a lot more. Maybe because I got used to that kind of format. Is that what you have in mind is what you say. So there's very minimum filter, and at least back in the day, we didn't even have the delays like now how some radio stations have, because I mean if you made a mistake, so be it. Like one of my former bosses, Suresh Venkat, said when I said, oh God, what if if I say something so terrible, and then he said, yeah, so what, big deal, some 20 lakh people are listening to you. Like really, that's all. Well, it's only 20 lakh, so they're not too many. But then you realize that when you're candid, you're being honest, and sometimes not being too prepared is also an advantage. That you are not so much rehearsing and this thing. Of course, you have to be prepared in terms of your research, your background, your whatever your homework on your subject or the person you're interviewing. But back to what you asked me about the podcast. For those who have never known what a podcast is or who have not had the joy of experiencing a podcast, let's say the thumbprint conversation is breaking news, saying that introducing them to this whole new way of consuming something, the whole new way of anubhava of because podcast is a downloadable audio clip of a program that has been readied by the presenter, that you can listen to it anytime at your own convenience, at your own pace. If you want to be listening to my radio show, then it would have to be an appointment listening, at least in some sense. You say that, okay, Vasanti is on and she's going to come, good morning at 7 o'clock. So you, no matter where you are, you have to turn on the radio or at least pre-record it. Now with the podcast, the thing is that, especially if you subscribe to that person's channel or podcast show, then it means that you can replay, rewind, even listen to it at a greater speed, because you can select the platforms. And these days, you have Audible and Spotify and Pocket Casts and what have you. You can take your pick, and almost all the the smartphones are equipped to do that. It also, the second advantage is that it gives you the luxury of time. I don't have to, back on live radio, I had to finish saying what I was saying between A.R. Rahman coming in with his number and Asha Tai with the next. So this is, okay, there's 40 seconds and there's an ad playing and I have to say everything. But in a podcast, you have a chance to speak at length about a subject, to deep dive, and to be able to take your listener on to nuance of the subject. To give you an example, let me tell you about a podcast that I'm listening to now. And invariably, whenever I'm cooking or I'm washing dishes in the morning, I just go to that. It's called The Seen and the Unseen by Amit Verma. And he was interviewing the biographer of Dadabhai Naoroji, and as part of the podcast. And it's fascinating, and it's almost 1 hour, 15 minutes. Now, if I were to do a radio show, one would think, oh my God, kaun sunne wala hai? Matlab, ek ghanta hai. But with podcast, you are, the listener knows in her or his mind, is prepared, and in fact enjoys that whole process of that long, uninterrupted and ad-free conversation, where you don't have to put up with and jhelo all the irritating commercial breaks that come in between, but you immerse yourself in the subject, and you have chosen, and that is why you out of choice that you are part of that. So I think I would love to create, and I'm in the process of creating a show or a podcast where I can make use of the fact that I'm connected to people across the country. Like, imagine you are in Guwahati, I'm guessing, or at least somewhere in Assam, and here I am sitting in the deep south, and we are able to have this longer chat. And so likewise, you can choose to have an interviewee, or you can just probably speak out of what you have prepared for yourself. But one thing is that I have to make a commitment to my listeners that at a particular frequency, let's say once a week or twice a week, this show will be, and you will be notified of it. The moment you know that I'm this thing, you can subscribe and stuff like that. It's been very popular in the United States. In fact, I should thank my son for introducing me to it, because I didn't know much about this. But now that you start listening, you just feel that, hey, everybody around you is listening, because podcasts inspire great loyalty. Like, those who start listening to it, I will swear by it. And you will have people who come back to you week after week, wanting more, and that sort of starts a whole new journey.
And in fact, I've been listening to podcasts and trying to learn a little bit of Urdu. There's a podcast called Urdu Nama. So
I see.
my pronunciation is bad, but I'm trying to at least understand the nuances. So
Very nice. You and I should हम इत्मीनान से गुफ्तगू कर सकते हैं.
No, I won't dare to speak in Urdu. Anyway, you have a window seat. You have a column called Window Seat in the Deccan Herald. So
That's
tell us, what do you see from your window?
I see from my window an India that is so not the India that we knew or we grew up with or we were even comfortable with. At the same time, I see a lot of people who are giving up on India and saying that this is not what it is. But I also see people like me who will not give up on India. And so this is where I see myself that when I am able to see so many beautiful things around me and I'm not making it up, it's not some la la land where I'm deliberately painting something, but genuinely the good that's left out of the bad news obsessed media, that I feel compelled, I feel that I owe it to the people who know me and who have placed their faith in me, that I should keep telling them about these things. And that's how I have largely used my Facebook or my other social media posts, whether it's on Instagram or elsewhere. And sometimes I've gotten told saying that, wow, how come you get to see only these nice things? And I, myself, I even went through an introspection in this thing, saying that, is it really that actually the things are so terrible and I'm just choosing to gloss over all that and um, somewhere, giving myself this artificial this thing, but that's not true. The truth is that it's of course the world across the world over things have been changing. There's just so much of social media backed hate. I wouldn't even waste my time, my precious time on your show, the thumbprint, going into stuff that is all wrong. We all know it. We don't need, I don't need to rant on it. But what is it that you and I are seeing and yet not seeing? That's my interest. To give you a very real life example, 4 days back we had what we call Krishna Jayanti at home. In the south, Janmashtami is called Gokulashtami or Sri Jayanti. And that's a big deal for the community that I am a part of. So parts of Tamil Nadu and Kerala celebrate their Janmashtami a month after the northern belt has had it. Now, every year, or as long as I have known, I've always had people come over and it's been open house, whether, from my radio days or even my Indian Express times. But this time it was a COVID compliant festival. So I said, well, obviously I'm not going to invite people at home and risk them. But what I can instead is that I will probably, and we make all these, there's a whole range of goodies if there is someone in the audience who recognizes all these very tam crunchies like muruk, muche, and then kod bade, as we call it in Kannada, and this undes are the laddus, and the sweets. I made about 9 varieties of all these. We had a community cooking. My aunt had come home, and all this happened. But then I chose a few people who I thought should experience what this festival is. And realistically speaking, about 6 to 7 people. Now, one of them is a writer called Nadira Kotikolam. She's also on my Facebook, and she belongs to the northern belt of Kerala. And she's also an author of a book called The Winnowing Waves, through which he describes beautifully life of a Malabar Muslim family. What gets called as a Mopla community. Now that was really my window into a community that otherwise I don't have a chance to experience. She writes this thing, and she's also part of this very syncretic India that we all so love to hold on to. And so she's retired from the railways and stuff. So I just, otherwise, I've not met her much. But I just thought Janmashtami is a great time to go over to her place, and of course, all the protocol to be maintained. But when I went to her place to give in her grandson, Zor Razak, adorable little child, and this thing, the happiness places, made it so, you just feel that this is what we are all about, right? And we don't need some Amar Akbar Anthony kind of film to drive home the point, but this is exactly how things were, and we don't even sometimes need to make a big deal of it. So from the window seat, I love telling unhyped stories, which happen around us all the time, but I am just giving you that chashma to see it from. I have been watching it now. Now, okay, now you see what, because I have always maintained that the hashtags that some people must have seen me use is that go where life takes, or take what life gives. Another thing which I always say, even on the Lok Sabha elections when I was traveling through Tamil Nadu and Kerala and Karnataka, was that I will say what I see. And I am not right wing, I'm not left wing, I'm wingless, yes. Because that's when you have the position to say, yeah, this is good here, this is bad, and you know, um, window seat offers me that vantage point. Because it's just that as a woman, as a solo traveler, much of the time when I was anchoring programs in Vishakhapatnam, and sometimes I've been to Kutch as part of a documentary. See, everywhere I go and see, people have the same pain points. I mean, कहीं पे पानी नहीं आ रहा है, कहीं पे पानी कुछ ज़्यादा ही आ रहा है. There's bar, there's water crisis, probably there's Paka's livelihood losses, like we have seen. So if we want to shift what we are talking from these high points that are best left to troublemakers, but just keep the thing to what's really uplifting. And that's also the reason, Teresa, when the lockdown started, almost the very next morning, I started a show called Nice Thing at 9. I'm like, okay, what can I do? I mean, here I'm let's say a storyteller and a journalist, and I'm going to be under house arrest. I didn't even want to go too much out because my mother, I didn't want to risk her. But you said that, okay, I have had this terrific khush nasibi to be part of so many experiences, meeting extraordinary people, whether they are celebrities or whether they are ordinary people. And if I choose to say one story a day and I hum one song along with it, then that's it. I can just sit where I am. And there I used to just sit in my backyard next to a tree and putting it out. I said, okay, what do I call it? I say, it's a nice thing at 9 a.m. So more or less, you could say whether it's the window seat where I'm writing or speaking, I love this window from where I'm watching India and telling stories. This India.
Okay, I know a work from home for certain professionals like you has been really challenging. I mean, especially during
So
the lockdown.
finally, yes.
Yeah. So, can you tell us some of the challenges that professionals like you who face when a situation like this occurs, and how do you think can you overcome this? I know you're being very positive and you're talking about nice things, but yeah, these are challenges which real life throws at you. So
It is true, and my career or what I was doing until, let's say, March 20th, 2020, has not happened ever since, which was a life on the stage, because invariably I would be behind a mic or on the anchor life. And that has gone for a 6, which means that the livelihood or the income that you were guaranteed to a certain extent has either reduced or has gone for that's it, has gone for good. So which means that I had to reimagine my own career, what I do from here on. I will say that I'm still lucky because there is a shared earning. right? Like, but in households where, let's say, the woman or the person, the guy who's the only breadwinner and loses that job, then I'm imagine what kind of a hardship that must be. To give our viewers a slice of that, the network of women in media India, NWMI, in fact, formed a fellowship, formed a collective, a sort of a support group to stand, as of course you are aware, or to those who had lost jobs, and particularly in smaller towns and where there were bills to be paid, there are children who are going to school. So I do get that, let's say, perspective of saying that, okay, here I am in a slightly better position. It's extremely difficult for me as well, because it's definitely, you have to completely figure out a new way of doing things. And the event industry itself, after I moved on from news television, uh, the event industry has gone into an almost deadlock. And in fact, there have been petitions with those who have, in fact, invested huge monies. At least I was someone who was a participant. Like, I would get called to anchor, finish, I just come back, I move on to the next event. But there are people who have, for whom that was their single livelihood. And so for me also, Teresa, it's been so difficult saying, so where do I go from here, right? So do I wait for things to settle down and say that, okay, let me bide my time? As I told you, there's enough and more to keep me occupied on a daily basis, which I'm also enjoying, like, okay, reading or stuff like that. But ultimately, it has to count. I mean, you have children, you have responsibilities, and all the bills. So it's been very, very tough. But what I do, therefore, is that when I keep in touch with people in the industry to understand what is it you need. To give you an example, like a friend from the event space called a few days back and said that, you know, which, because there's a lot of demand for content which is meaningful, which is a different, I mean, there's a whole lot of video content out there, and it can be from mediocre to okay to high quality. But if you're slightly up the value chain, people expect you to deliver something which is a lot more meaningful, conversation with thought leaders, or your own perspectives, whether it could be on social things, changes that have happened since the lockdown, the mental health space, children, parenting, what's the impact on kids. So you have to then see what is the inputs that you're getting from all these people. Then you have to match it with your own skill set and said, okay, I am good at this, but is it okay? I mean, how do I even record from home? 2 months back, I got a voiceover assignment, which was a slightly tough one. I mean, it's a long documentary kind of, and I couldn't go to any studio because no studios were accepting. I mean, I was also worried to go to a studio, and then, my son figure. In fact, he had kept telling me, he said, "Amma, I think you should get some recording equipment at home." And then we scouted for something which is not too expensive, because I can't invest like how people would have in a full-blown studio, and yet the quality had to be the same. Then you did trial and error. You went through online tutorials on how to, fix this. My very dear friend Nilesh Misra, who is radio sensation up there, and also the founder editor of Ground Connection. So when I asked him, I said, "What kind of mic do you think I should?" Because he does that from his home. So I think that is one big thing that seemingly difficult, but very necessary, that you have to put yourself out there. You have to reach. You should not. I think if you have an ego saying that, or you feel that it's how do I, what will people think if I say that I don't have a job or I don't have this thing? It's not easy. But I always tell people saying that, the biggest of business houses have their crashing point. So who are we? Just individuals. Actors have gone through uncertainty and insecurity. So all of us have to be there for each other. That's for sure.
And actually, unfortunately, we are running out of time. So before we end, can you tell us something about pickle jar, and how do you reimagine pickle jar after the lockdown?
So the last outing of Pickle Jar was when we did this 18-day trip. There was also my colleague Preeti Nagraj who traveled through Karnataka. She and I were colleagues at the Indian Express, and we said that, okay, when we are covering Lok Sabha elections, we need to have people who know the state or who know the language. So I chose to go to Tamil Nadu. Because I also feel very comfortable reading and speaking Tamil and all that. So Pickle Jar at that time was a lot easier in that it was Pickle Jar Pole Express. After the Pickle Jar film festivals that I started in 2016 with the Smita Patil festival that we put out. In 2018 and 2019, we did the election specials because that was, coming back to our first love to really go and be able to pursue agenda-free journalism. And like I said a few minutes before, to say what we see, because that's what is needed. We need people who won't thump the desk and say this is what the nation needs to know, but actually say that this is what the people are saying, and I'm a reflector of that voice. And so we had most of what I did was also on Facebook Live, so people could see for themselves that there was no setting, editing, etc., etc. So that was Pickle Jars Plus. But after that, we are not a 24/7 outfit or media company. All of us are professionals who have other things to do. So we come together whenever there's a project. So therefore, the downside is that there's no dynamic website. If someone's watching and wants to see what Pickle Jar is up to, unfortunately, I have not done what I should have probably done. For that matter, the Facebook page will still show our last outing. But now, after the lockdown, as things, as the universe reveals itself a little more clearly, I feel that we should, from here, become a very wholesome content company, which is in the audio, video, digital space, because audio was left out of the picture. Since I was almost always on the ground, visible, and because I am a video journalist at the end of the day, but with radio, I mean, with podcast coming into the picture, hopefully the next few months will work towards it being this space where which will have really matters that matter to us. Like it could be religion or music or people that I was telling you about, the writers, and many things which are very which can be told to an India which is ready to absorb at this moment, but doesn't have too many options. I mean, if you even the channel which you watch, you get labeled. I mean, if you are watching NDTV, then you are probably a supporter of the Congress. Or if you're watching Republic, then you're a confirmed Bhakt. I hate using the word Bhakt, or I hate using any other label, whether it's Komi or whatever, because I'm like, I mean, it's like being in a meal. Okay, sometimes you're going to have rasam, sometimes you're going to have sambar, and it goes into your rice and you're going to have this thing. So what stops us from really being watchful what we are watching, and yet be very careful what we are forming our opinions on? So frankly, Teresa, it's not very easy to steer Pickle Jar into what I want it to be, because but the good thing is that I have good people around, and hopefully that wisdom will help us in the days to come. I mean, whether it's people who are experienced journalists, or who at least also teach me how to make it a profitable, viable thing, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to give people what they deserve, in terms of a salary and stuff like that. So that's the journey.
So hopefully, pickle jar will have a lot of spices from all parts of India, including the northeast of India. Hope you visit us someday and curate some festival here.
Yes.
So on that note, yeah, we are running out of time. So it was lovely talking to you. It's always, I always feel happy talking to you. So that's more important. And yeah, we have
Yeah, and same here, same here.
Mm.
I just love the fact that you've had such a diverse range of women, of people who, who every time you have them on the conversation, there is, people who are listening definitely are gaining, isn't it? Like all of us, um, in that sense, are richer at the end of the conversation. So thank you for having me over. And as for this wish of the Northeast, मुंह में घी शक्कर, or I will say muruk muche, you see.
Yes.
Would love for that to happen soon. I shall, and whenever I visit the Northeast, I'm going to make sure that I get handloom and hand wovens of the Northeast, just like how I want to do with Hia and other,
Yeah, I
lovely
think
fabrics.
Jonali Saika is watching. So she says that Teresa loved this conversation of my favorite media person, Vasanti Hari. And yeah,
Thank
Mitra
you.
Fukan, the well-known
Thank you.
author,
And
she
Mitra,
says,
I can see that Mitra is also Jonali
yeah,
and Mitra, and
very,
it's
very
I can't
interesting
wait to
conversation.
meet. Yes, yes, all the writers and all the people there. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day. Good evening, good night. Bye.
Yes, good evening. Namaskara. Take care.
Take care.